If you have been a fan of Ubisoft, whether new or old, you are probably familiar with one or maybe a few of their, um, how should I say, best hitters. The lineup of Ubisoft games. You know, you have your Assassin's Creeds, you have your Watch Dogs, you have whatever else is there. But one franchise stood out to me in particular. One that I hold a very soft spot in my heart. That gem being the Prince of Persia franchise. The Prince of Persia series began in 1989, releasing its first ever game in the series on the Apple II, as a 2D side-scroller platformer game. And believe it or not, it was pretty enjoyable and entertaining, even though it looked like something out of an Atari game. The animations were surprisingly smooth, the sound design was decent, and had mechanics like incorporating magical potions to help players in the game. But even so, this version of the game never really saw any critical acclaim or commercial success, or even some notoriety for its concepts. There were some snippets of it being shown on newspapers talking about the game, but it never really reached more than that, not like how other games used to be in the 90s with advertisements like the Sega Genesis or the N64 or the NES or any other classic retro game console or game in general like in the 90s you could probably think of. As the ages grew by and the more powerful computers started to come out and even gaming consoles started to become more apparent, with consoles like the NES as previously mentioned, the creator of the Prince of Persia series later on developed ports that later on went to become hits in its times. Even though the game didn't grow popular in America, it grew popular in the UK and other parts of Europe. The creator even went to France to pick up an award for the game that he made. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? Well, it doesn't stop there. Fast forward a few years, the PlayStation 2 released in Japan on March 4th, North America on October 22nd, the EU on November 24th, and November 30th for Australia and other regions in the year 2000. 3 years after the release of the PlayStation came the release of the very first fully 3D action platform game in the series, the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, starring Yuri Lowenthal as the voice actor for the Prince. This franchise later on went to get its own trilogy, spanning 3 games on the PlayStation 2, those games being Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, Prince of Persia: Warrior Within, and Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones, with Forgotten Sands being released on the PlayStation 3, and another Prince of Persia game called The Prince of Persia. Now, when I was young, I played Warrior Within as my first ever Prince of Persia game, and from that point I fell in love with the series ever since, and thankfully I had the Two Thrones game to help me quench the thirst for the Prince of Persia franchise. Only recently have I played the Sands of Time because I was an idiot and thought that it wasn't as good as the other aforementioned game, only to find myself gushing grannies every time I progressed through the story. Now, before I continue with this video contains spoilers for the current games that I'm about to talk about. If you have not had the chance to play these games, I highly suggest and encourage you to go get your hands on these games and play them for yourselves. It is something you will not regret. You will enjoy these games 100%. In the Sands of Time, you play as the Prince of Persia, who was the son of King Shahraman, a powerful and merciful ruler of Persia. The story takes place in the prince's youthful days where he was careless and free-spirited. After the prince and his father came back from his siege on India, they obtained a relic of huge stature, the hourglass that holds the Sands of Time, with a special dagger that can activate and control the Sands of Time, that being the Dagger of Time. The prince, trying to win over his father and trying to impress him, ventures by himself into the vaults of the Maharajas, which houses the sacred Dagger of Time. The vizier, King Shahraman's right hand, betrays them by manipulating their young and arrogant prince into inserting the Dagger of Time into the hourglass, unleashing the chaotic power of the Sands of Time and spreading havoc across all the lands, corrupting anyone and afflicting them, turning them into sand monsters, including King Shahraman, which then gets killed by the hands of his own son, the prince. That's how the whole Sands of Time arc came to be. In Warrior Within, the prince is being chased by something called the Dahaka, an immortal guardian of the timeline, a monster that chases after the prince to erase him for releasing the sands of time, a physical manifestation of fate chasing down anyone who creates time paradoxes. The prince tries to reshape his fate by traveling to a temple called the Temple of Time. There he finds a woman called Kailina, who we later find out that she is the Empress of Time, responsible for the Sands of Time's creations. Kailina tells the prince that the future she saw was herself being killed by the prince. The prince in turn saves Kailina and brings her back to Babylon, in turn creating a different timeline than the one that was originally intended. There are two endings to this game, the good ending and the bad ending. The good ending is the one that I just told you. You save Kailina and you take her back to Babylon. The bad ending of the game is when the prince fights Kailina for the final time and ends up killing her, which causes the Dahaka to jump in and erase Kailina from the timeline that the prince is currently in, because the Sands of Time were not meant to be in the timeline that he is in right now. He later goes back to Babylon and finds that his city is in ruins. There is something that I didn't mention up until now in Warrior Within, which is the game does backtracking in a very interesting way, in which there are these sand chambers around the palace where the prince uses them to transport himself between the past and the present, allowing him to basically jump through time. This way, when you progress through the game, there are certain sections of the story that require you to be in the past in order to continue your journey in the present. By using pathways that were accessible to him in the past but aren't accessible in the present, and vice versa. In Two Thrones, which follows the canonical good ending of Warrior Within, the Prince of Persia rewriting timeline, and Prince of Persia The Two Thrones, which follows the good ending of Warrior Within, the prince and Kailina come back into Babylon thanks to the prince for rewriting the timeline and saving Kailina from her fate, in which she was doomed to get killed by the prince. But because of that, the vizier gets hold of the hourglass and the dagger of time after kidnapping Kailina and killing her in front of the prince. And because of that, the sands of time, once again, get spread across the lands, and once again infecting everyone with it, including the prince this time. Thankfully, the prince only gets his arm infected and not his whole body. The prince then later on in the game gets a hold of a new ability where he becomes a sand monster, which looks so cool, boasting a black body with golden stripes and a chain he uses thanks to one of the enemies latching his arms with it. This form is basically the alter ego of the prince, representing his more darker and more violent ideas. Basically your intrusive thoughts on cocaine. Now I will not be going in depth into the story of these three games more than I have to, because I feel like you should experience the game yourself in order to get the full experience. Of course, not I fucking said everything about Warrior Within. It's still, you have to experience it to fully understand what's going on. Explaining it to someone is like explaining Star Wars lore to someone who doesn't know Star Wars. These games alone mark a very great and important history in the franchise's life, being one of the best trilogies in Ubisoft's career, standing shoulder to shoulder with some of the greats like the Ezio trilogy and a few others. So tell me why, when I go onto the internet to doomscroll as usual, I see a post stating that Ubisoft has cancelled the remake of The Sands of Time. Do you know how much of a fucking hit this game would have been if it was fucking remade? With better graphics and better sound design, how clean and beautiful the story and the set pieces would have looked. Oh, and you wanna all, I can't even speak from how pissed off I am. You wanna know what's also funny? They cancelled 5 other projects including the remake! The actress who plays a crucial role in the game lost 3 years of hard work, turning down other opportunities, working through injuries, just for the fucking company to just cancel it, and not even have the dignity to inform the actress who plays the most important character in the game, second only to the fucking prince himself! God, this fucking company makes me hate them more and more every day. A clear shot at appealing to the classic fans of the franchise, and they fucking decided to wipe their ass with such a treasured gem in the gaming community. Now, don't get me wrong, I have been playing the new spin-off games like Lost Crown and planning to play Rogue Prince after I finish Lost Crown, but nothing will ever beat the charm and the style the Sands of Time trilogy had. this linear yet somehow open world that this game takes place in, the breadth of like the beautiful scenery that you see when you're atop of high areas, the enemy design. I have seen the fans' response to this and how disappointed and disheartened they were about this news, and I fully stand with them. Ubisoft does not know how to handle their own IPs anymore at this point. Everything that they touch is doomed for failure, and everything that they try to resurrect is either killed immediately or lives long enough to where it starts to become lackluster and a cash grab like the Assassin's Creed series. Ubisoft does not deserve this IP. Any other IP that they have, it does not deserve these games anymore. And I hope from the bottom of my heart that if this franchise gets bought by another company, it gets its rightful chance to shine and bring in new fans into the franchise. The rightful spotlight that it deserves got shunned away because they don't know how to fucking make good games anymore and just following trends. Gotta hate Ubisoft. To think that I once liked this company because they made good games, and now with all the controversy, all the bullshit that's happening with them, with this on top of the shit cake that is Ubisoft, I'm just like, I've fully given up hope on anything, on everything Ubisoft related at this point. This was, oh man, this really sucked because I was hoping and praying something Prince of Persia related would come out, and yet again I'm enjoying my time with Lost Crown. Okay, I haven't, the combat in this game in Lost Crown is probably the best combat we've had in the entire Prince of Persia series. I have not looked at Rogue Prince, nor Forgotten Sands, or the other Prince of Persia game that was released, or like the two Prince of Persia games that were released on the PlayStation 3. I have not played them. I will be planning on playing Forgotten Sands once I'm done with whatever bullshit that I have left. I have so many games I have to play, goddamn. But anyways, enough yap. This was a quick rant that I had to get off my chest when I saw this yesterday, and fuck you Ubisoft, you're allergic to money, you don't make any more good games, every decision you do is ass, every game that you touch goes to die, and every remake you try to do will end up burning in human shit. I think I have sworn enough times to probably get demonetized if I ever was even monetized in the first place, which I'm not, so haha. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.